We say that in order to be a respected consultant, you need to travel at least 2,000 miles. I traveled 2.5 miles to get here. 2.5 miles down north, so it's closest travel ever. But I know this is as a consultant here. So my name is Pavel. Pavel would be better, but here people call Pavel. I just moved here like 4 years ago, so I'm local, but not truly local. And been working with Adizes since 2007. My Dr. Adizes, and before that, I'm a graduate of Boulder. So I got my MBA from Boulder in 97, 98, did another MBA in Europe, and realized that although I had 2 MBAs, some people cannot do it from the first attempt, I guess. My management skills were kind of missing. You want me to
turn it on just for the video we're recording it.
So when I met Dr. Adizes and read his book, by the way, I heard from one, I guess, smart guy who told me that you only need to read 10 books in your life. This probably takes you to read like 1,000 to discover what 10 you should have read. So managing corporate life cycles is one of my top 10. My top 5 right now still. So I really truly recommend from management books. It's still number 1. Basically, when I read it, kind of gaps from MBA, because MBA was good, but then I was comfortable in marketing, finance, all that stuff, but management was actually missing, was too generic. So if you have time, try to read the book. You will enjoy it, by the way, because you're pretty sure you will, if you read it for the first time, you feel like somebody was watching your company and was writing about you. When I was reading the book, it was somebody was writing about my company. I was CEO and co-founder of the company at that time. And they were describing some such cases like a founder trap, seagull syndrome, and I said, it's about us. It's about us. We're definitely in founder's trap. We cannot develop beyond capabilities of 2 of us. We need to move our company to a new level. And I was actually reading this in a book from a professor from Santa Barbara that actually lives here, and it was fascinating. What I want to talk today, and Heidi chose a topic which is great, because this is basically a crash course on Adizes. So half an hour, 40 minutes, will cover more or less the whole methodology. And there will be 2 or 3 branches, 2 or 3 other topics we can go into. I hope I will generate some curiosity, so you will go online, Google it, or probably buy some books and read more stuff after that, because it will be a crash course, but there are 2 or 3 interesting topics out of that that we definitely will not be able to cover today. So what will, like those of us who manage, even if you manage a company, manage a project, you know that you have a challenge. You need to balance running your company, running your project, and changing your company. And in most of the cases, you probably spend 90% of your time running your company. Sometimes you don't even have 5% of time to spend on changing a company, and that actually leads to companies aging prematurely. Like most of you in software businesses, I only have like 3 clients in software business. In your case, it's probably easier. When we work with heavy manufacturing companies, when you ask them a question, how much time do you spend here versus here, it will be like 98% here, 2% here. In your case, I mean, average life cycle of your product is probably 2-3 years, maybe. So definitely you need to spend more time here. But overall in management, you need to balance between running and changing. And if you don't balance it, short term always wins. Short term always wins, short term always kills long term. You forget about long term and so on. And the whole Adizes is basically around change. The word change is central for us. We are change consultants. We're not really consultants, but we help companies to deal with change, because we say change is forever. You cannot fight change. You can fight change in your company, but then you lose to competition. You can probably fight change in your country, but then you also lose to competition. You cannot fight change, you cannot stop change. But what is interesting, change, and I'll give you a trivial question, change always comes with problems, or as we call it, problems or opportunities. Why does change always comes with problems? Do you see it? Like when there is a change, big event, we kind of feel some problems. Why? Any ideas?
It's something new.
So change is something new, right? And resistance. But resistance is our reaction, right? We react because we don't like it. Why don't we like it? Because nobody likes anything new? Not necessarily. Why?
Fear of the unknown.
Fear of unknown, okay, yeah.
Well, presumably your company had adapted to whatever the state was before the change, and so if your company hasn't changed to react to the change, then it's no longer, it needs to adapt to.
That's a good one, yeah. All of those are good answers. What our official answer is, with change, realize everything is a system. Your company is a system. Our world is a system. Your family is a system. And as a system, your company consists of subsystems. And with change, those subsystems, they do not change in synchronicity. They change with different speed. So with change, you have gaps. Some systems advance faster, some systems advance slower. Let me give you like a very easy demonstration of that. I mean, you're a little bit different business, but I assume you do have a similar functions. Like the way I'd like to demonstrate it, you have 4 major subsystems in any business entity. And we can use first 2 letters just to indicate it. First, probably the most, I hope I will not offend anybody, but the most important subsystem in any business relates to, we call it client interface. No clients, no business. So basically, client interface is part of any business. We don't call it client interface in our companies. How do we call functions responsible for interacting with clients? You guys do have those functions there.
Sales and marketing.
You have sales, right? And you do have marketing. Why did I put sales to the left, marketing to the right? What is a major fundamental difference between sales and marketing? Short term, long term. Sales is focused today, marketing should be focused tomorrow. Second system, we call it transformation. Basically, the way you create value for your clients, the way you produce your product, the way you produce your software, whatever. And what are the 2 components? Like sales and marketing, what are the 2 functions that usually goes on transformation?
Operations.
You have production or operations, and you have
R&D.
R&D or new product development here. Like today, tomorrow. Third one, HF, stands for human factors. And we have human resource administration and human resource development. Hiring, firing, payroll, all this, sexy stuff. Human resource development, how do you develop people for tomorrow, right? And finally, the last but not the least, finance, right? Financial factors. You do have accounting here and finance, financial planning here. So as company changes, what subsystems usually change faster in regular business? Look at your company. Let's imagine you have all these 8 subsystems. Which subsystems are more developed? Left side? Left side usually is more developed. But I would assume that probably in most of your cases you would say, hey, I'm pretty good here, right? Our developers are working with developing a product. I mean, some of you are probably better than others, but you need sales, otherwise business will basically die. And then I ask you, do you have a well-developed HRD? Some people say, hey, we don't even know what HRD is, right? What about marketing? Oh yeah, we do some brochures, we do some conferences, but this is not really marketing. It's sales support. Marketing is basically defining markets for tomorrow, right? So as company grow, for example, like I was working with IT company, they grew from 10 million to right now they're 0.9 billion, yeah, in 7 years. So the sales are great. It's $1 billion company. The production is probably one of the best in the industry. The human resources administration is fine. They're hiring like around 2,000 people per year, turnover, different and so on. The HRD does not exist. Marketing, question. New product development, it's okay. That's it. So basically what I'm saying with change, different parts of the system change different speed, and then you have gaps. If your sales is developed on that level, and your production is here, you have a big problem. Or if your production is terrific, but you cannot sell, you have a big problem. Your sales is good, your production is good, your here is good, but all those systems are not developed, you have a different type of problem, you are basically aging. You invest in everything for today, tomorrow there will be nothing to sell, right? So what we are saying, change is forever, and change always comes with problems and opportunities, because different parts of the system change with different speed, right? And hopefully nobody will catch me on that, but I was told many times that in Chinese, this symbol called Wei Ji basically means more or less like problems and opportunities. It's a little bit different, I was told by native speakers of Chinese, Mandarin, but they tell me that pretty close, you can go with that. But more or less, crisis and opportunity is more or less the same symbol in Chinese. So because if it's a problem for me, it's maybe opportunity for my competitor. If it's opportunity for my competitor, it's maybe a problem for me. So the trick is how do you basically handle those problems and opportunities, and you cannot outrun the change, right? You cannot beat the change. You probably heard this famous joke about lion and two men in safari. You know this joke? Two guys are in Africa. They say lion approaching them, and one of them sits down and starts with his, running shoes. And the other guy say, "Hey, what are you doing? You're not planning to outrun the lion, are you? Hey, I don't need to outrun the lion. I need to outrun you, right? So you don't need to beat change. You just need to tackle change. You need to handle change better than your competitors. That's the whole trick. And we have a whole methodology how to do it, which I'll present you in the next half an hour. So more or less, you need management only because there is change. If there will be no change, there is no need for management. Probably maximum you need some administration. If no change, there is no need for management. And management is pretty simple. You can read many books. Just remember, management is really, really, really simple. There are just two processes involved in management. In order to manage, you first need to, what do you need to do? In order to manage problems and opportunities that come from change, what do you need to do first?
Identify the problems.
You need to identify the problems, you need to analyze the problems, and you need to make some decisions. So you need to decide, right? What else do you need to do? Is decide enough?
Execute.
You need to execute, you need to implement, right? Because decision itself worth nothing. By the way, this is like a kind of a side note. Big part of our methodology is based on this theory of organizational life cycle developed by Dr. Adizes. What he discovered that problems that you have here are predictable and they repeat themselves. So if you know where you are in your corporate life cycle, you know what problems are normal and what problems are abnormal. So you can go online, you can take a test, or you can read the book, you can basically identify with your team where you are in a life cycle. If you identify it today, you would know what type of problems will you have tomorrow. By the way, there's a whole presentation, I'll share it with you, in PowerPoint after the lecture, so you don't need to copy it. So you see those different stages. We're not going to talk about it during this short talk, but overall the point is, based on where you are in the life cycle, are typical problems that more or less 70 or 80% of them are the same, and companies before you experience that. Let's say my company, when I started managing it, was somewhere here, what we call founder's trap. Founder's trap usually characterized by a company which is managed by a strong founder. All key decisions, all strategic decisions are done by one person. Company cannot we were not able to basically to grow beyond his capabilities. Lots of micromanagement, and it shows here because all companies in founders trap are sooner or later they're aging, because they're aging and they die much younger than they could have grown, right? And there are different stages here. You can read the book and identify. You can probably even guess where you are based on those descriptions, just titles. right? Our sweet spot, most of our clients we work with, we're helping them to go from go-go to adolescence. Go-go is a fast growth stage of a company when a company usually goes in different directions, sometimes finds itself in completely unfocused businesses and usually relatively big businesses. And adolescence, you're trying to professionalize, you're trying to be not only growth-oriented, but profit-oriented, better systems, better people management, etc., etc. Second big group of companies we're working with is founders track. We work a lot with family-owned businesses and overall with private companies, helping them to get out of that founders trap and move back. The third one, quite depressing group. I personally don't like to work with them. They pay the best because they don't care. They have lots of cash, and companies here. Aristocracy, like Microsoft probably would be aristocracy. Everything is good, lots of cash, but then company is going down. Market share is not growing, but in terms of profitability, offices and the way it looks, it's like they're on top of the world, right? Why I don't like to work with companies like that, because here you have, it's tough to make them work. They don't want to spend time with you because they need to grow. These guys are not in a hurry, but it depends. I just prefer to work with those still entrepreneurial company rather than really company close to bureaucracy and close to.
Excuse me.
Yeah.
What does recrimination mean?
What does recrimination here mean?
Yeah.
Basically after aristocracy, everything still looks good. Everybody knows it's not good, but it still looks on paper good. Recrimination, you suddenly realize, you're basically going down and you start, we sometimes call it recrimination or witch hunt. You're trying to find who you blame for all troubles you have right now.
Right, exactly.
Witch hunt you can do, any Wednesday more or less, but here it becomes like a galore witch hunt, right? You're trying to find who's responsible. And after that, what we say, this is no return zone. If you moved here, the saying is that it's easier to basically to start a new organization than to rejuvenate. I would probably never work with companies like here because it's a kind of lost time. They can still live for years and decades, especially if you have a mother company who supports you, inserts cash, or like government, basically help those businesses because they just want to keep certain industry alive, like a coal industry in some eastern state. But overall, you feel, you cannot really rejuvenate them. Right? Going here, we just said that management is decide and implement, pretty simple, right? What is the best, let's just talk about what do you need to effectively decide and implement in your business. What is the best political system? What political system is the best for making the most effective decisions? And I'm coming from Belarus, so don't tell me it's dictatorship. Because sometimes people in the US, when I ask them, what is the best system for decision making, the answer should be, what is the best political system for decision making? What system is designed to make the best decisions?
Belarus.
Democracy, right? Sometimes people say, hey, dictatorship. No, come on. Because democracy is based on legitimacy of dissension. You can argue, you have different opinion, and so on. So what I find out sometimes, I don't know whether you guys are making fun, but people say dictatorship. Probably you're just tired of democracy a little bit. But trust me, bad democracy is still better than good dictatorship. So in order to make best decision, you need democracy. Because you need different people working together, exchanging opinions. You have a chance to get a better decision. What political system is the best for implementation? Is democracy good for implementation?
No, it's dictatorship.
So we have dictatorship here, right? Because dictatorship is no more discussion, we just go and do it. So what we say, that in order to manage problems and opportunities come from change, you need something like democracy.
You don't work in software.
Huh?
You don't work in software.
No, we don't.
It's not true with developers.
It's not true with developers?
Dictatorship, yeah. Dictatorship doesn't work for software development.
In implementation?
Yes.
Correct.
It's like herding cats.
mean, that's what Agile is about, is about pushing down decisions. So I mean, it's,
You push down decisions, and when decision is taken, don't you need dictatorship?
no, because you're iterating, so that decision lasts until the next iteration.
Okay, that's a good point. It's a good point, but, okay, there is a line, and it's difficult sometimes to draw a line between decision-making and implementation. Sooner or later, are you saying in software development business, you are constantly working in democracy and democracy?
No, because you have strategic decisions that those iterations serve. And if the iteration diverges from that strategy, then you've got a problem. And that's where you have dictatorship, because the dictatorship is to execute that strategy.
Because one day because, I mean, we are working with a lot of companies, democracy. How would you describe a company, democracy here, democracy here?
What happens is that in development, each developer thinks of himself as a country.
Yeah.
So you need
That's
to
good.
you need to get buy-in.
Good, I like that.
You need to get buy-in, even to achieve everybody aligning to what you want.
And that's democracy, right?
Highly empowered
I
individuals.
know what they're talking about.
Okay.
I mean, I just saw like a post on some social network like yesterday. They ask a question in different countries. Does the boss supposed to know answers to all business-related questions? Basically, if you're the boss, are you supposed to know everything? US was like 56%. 56% of respondents said that top guy should know all the answers. Russia, India, 73%.
Oh, wow.
Sweden, wanna guess?
20.
Sweden like 9.
Wow.
All 4 Scandinavian countries were on the bottom, like Sweden, then Denmark, then Norway, and then Finland.
That's
Finland
really
25 and so on. So what I actually like it, what I usually say, so that when you are managing, especially companies which has many smart people, and software business is definitely business like that, you need to be more Scandinavian. You need to manage Scandinavian. What is a typical stereotype American management system? How much time typical, I'm not talking about software is not really typical, but typical stereotype American company spends on decision making? Is it fast or slow? Making decision?
Slow.
Slow. Typical stereotype, at least from European perspective, American company is Americans make decisions pretty fast.
Oh, really?
American
How about
make
the
decisions,
Chinese?
make decisions pretty fast.
Donald Trump.
They make it. Okay. That's right. But even without Trump, it's a presidential country. Companies are usually run like you have strong CEOs and so on. They make decisions pretty fast. The time they spend on decision making is relatively short. Time to implement is forever. Have you ever worked with Scandinavian companies? I work a lot with companies from Sweden, a lot. By the time they make a decision, sometimes I thought they forgot about me twice. I need to move somewhere else. Because I made an offer, I'm waiting, I'm pushing, they tell me, Pavel, don't be too pushy. I say, okay. So I step down, and then I wait, say, okay, I'll move to another project. And then they reappear, but they spend some time decision making. When time comes to implement, implementation is really short. They involve many more people in decision making than companies here. So you can apply it to cultural context, but it will be a stereotype. You can also apply it to life cycle. Usually young companies, they need to make fast decisions. And initially they make fast decisions and they implement fast. Because they do decisions they implement by themselves. Then they grow, they have 500 people, then they still are making fast decisions, but implementation takes forever because everybody wants to argue. Because, hey, I mean, it's not right, we have democracy, it's fine, and probably those decisions are not the best decisions. So you need to learn how to go, instead of doing short, long, to go for long, short. The best way to make this decision to get implemented is spend more time going slower here, going faster here. And that's actually this democracy is all about. You have democracy here, and then here. Problem is, most of the people struggle to draw the line. Your style, most likely inclined to either this style or this style. And I'm not talking about values. Hopefully most of us by values we are here. I'm talking about your management style and the way you behave. Some of us are much more effective here. You're good in decision making. You are, straight to the point, result oriented. Some of us, I was talking about dictatorship. Some of us are just more creative, open-minded, and those people sometimes struggle to decide. Because decide is a specific English word. I mean, I'm not going to teach you English, but tell me other English words that end with sight. Suicide.
Homicide.
Pesticide.
Yeah, so the word decide, basically, right? So you need to decide.
That's
And if
awesome.
you do not decide, have democracy here, nothing gets implemented. There are some other companies, dictatorship here, sooner or later they will go bankrupt, right? So we want democracy here, dictatorship here, and probably the line is here, right? In your business, you definitely need to involve more people, and you cannot just. What is it? Many people believe that there is a group of people, not in your business. In your business, guys, you do not operate this way. If you work with conventional industries, they believe there is a group of people to make decisions, and there is a group of people just to implement. It's not working anymore, especially with workforce becoming more intellectual. It's not working. Basically, people who would implement are more or less should be the same people who decide. There are some differences, but more or less it should be the same. So what we are preaching at least is for democratic decision making. You discuss until you're comfortable with that. Although we're not fighting for consensus. Adizes is not about consensus. You cannot run business by consensus. Somebody still needs to make final decision, right? And most likely in your project, you still have a project manager or whoever who still has authority to make a final decision. So let's just go further. So we said that in order to make the best decision, most likely you need a democratic system. You need people with different styles, talking, discussing, raising different ideas. And let's go here. So we need people with different styles working together in order to get the best decisions. We call it PEI. Read the book. I don't have time for PEI right now. It's a big lecture by itself. Basically, PEI are 4 vitamins, 4 roles of management, and you can learn your style, your management style based on PEI. I'll just tell you what PEI stands for, and you can go online on our website and take a sample test to understand what is your style. P stands for produce results, producer. A stands for administrator. E stands for entrepreneur, entrepreneurship, and I stands for integration. So PAEI, 4 roles of management: produce results, provide for client needs, to administer your business to make business more efficient, E, entrepreneur, to generate ideas and businesses for future, and I, integrate as a team. It's a side note, so it's a big topic in itself. But overall, for topic I'm trying to cover, in order to make effective decisions, you need people of different styles working together. If you have 2 people who think alike, one of them is basically useless. You don't want 2 people who completely think alike, right? So you need different people, different styles, and for implementation you need to coalesce, combine people with different interests to work together so they implement. And there is another really powerful, probably the most powerful tool in management called COPY. COPY stands for coalesced, authority, power, and influence. You need to assure that the team that is working on a particular project has COPY in order to have an effective implementation. That's again beyond, we can probably talk about it if you will have questions about that, but I don't really need to go deep to cover major topic. So, manage, you need decide and implement. Decide, you need people with different styles, and implement, you need to coalesce different interests. And when people with different styles work together, or people with different interests work together, you naturally have a conflict. So conflict is a natural part of any management. You need management to manage change, and you cannot avoid conflict to manage. Conflict is desired. We always say, you need conflict in your company. But as we know, conflict is like nuclear energy. You can use it constructively to light, the world, or you can use it destructively. So the same with conflict. If you don't manage conflict, what type of conflict you usually get?
Destructive.
You get destructive conflict, right? So if you do nothing, conflict always gets destructive. If you manage conflict, you have a chance to make conflict constructive. Constructive conflict can build a company, destructive conflict can definitely destroy it. And again, it's like a garden. Like you have a beautiful garden, try doing nothing for a year. What will happen with your garden?
You have a jungle.
You don't have a garden anymore, you have a jungle. The same with conflict. You do nothing, any team, even nice individuals, you will have a destructive conflict sooner or later. So it's a basically everyday job to manage this conflict constructively, to achieve what we call mutual trust and respect, which you need to people to have democracy here and later on to have dictatorship. And the whole methodology, what we're working with 4 elements to help companies to build this culture of mutual trust and respect that enable them to change faster than their competition. There are just 4 elements you need to work with in order to build a culture of mutual trust and respect, which is indispensable for constructive conflict. What would be the first one? Let's try to use an analogy, cooking a gourmet dish. What is the first component you need in order to cook a gourmet dish?
Good ingredients.
Good ingredients, right? You will not be able to cook a gourmet dish if ingredients are bad. You will not be able to cook a perfect apple pie if your apples are rotten. So what would be an example? What would be an analogy for ingredients in any business? So you need people, right? So you need talent, you need people. We need mature people. We're not talking about competence right now. We're talking about the way they communicate with each other, the way they respect and trust each other. So you basically need people who trust colleagues, who you can trust, who respect, who can communicate with. And we all know that few rotten apples can kill the whole company. By the way, if you have a person who is well qualified, qualifications galore, at the same time, he or she is a really bad team member in terms of he or she does not respect other colleagues, cannot be trusted. What should you do with such guy?
Fire fast.
Fire fast. Fire fast is the second best. What would be the first? What would be the best?
Coach them.
Redirect.
Develop.
Do not hide.
Recommend to competition. If you have a guy well qualified, but really bad, for a team, recommend to competition. It will be easy to sell, right? Because probably he or she is qualified, so easy to sell. Let them deal with him or her, because you cannot. This is the first component. Good ingredients. What is the next one? What is the next step if you're trying to cook a gourmet dish?
Process.
You need to have a process, right? You need to have a recipe, you need to have a process. In management, this is a process, how do you make these people work together? Basically here we're talking a lot about this democracy. How do you make sure they work together while they're making a decision, and how do they work together later on when they implement a decision? How do they communicate, how do they exchange ideas, how do they listen to each other, etc., etc., etc. Because bad process and all good ingredients you can throw away. So you will not be able to achieve anything with a bad process. What is the next one? You have good ingredients, people, you have a collaborative process, they work well together, they work effectively and efficiently. The next one?
Evaluation.
Evaluation. You want to evaluate them. Okay.
Or feedback.
That's maybe part of a process. No, okay.
Equipment.
How about environment?
You need equipment, right? You need a good oven, you need a good hardware, because even if your hardware, if your temperature goes up and down every 5 minutes, you will not be able to cook. What would be the analogy of equipment in the organization? In any. People, process, You need
Plant.
hardware, equipment.
Plant,
Plan?
plant,
Plant.
yeah.
Plant itself. Okay, close. We call it structure, right? So you need a structure, and by structure, people usually confuse what structure means, because structure for most of us just means few like organizational, chart. This is not structure. Structure consists of three major components. Structure of responsibilities, structure of authority, and the last piece. So you need to know what are you responsible for, you need to know what type of authority you have, and the last piece to make all structure work. If you don't have this piece, this rest is useless.
Accountability?
Accountability, always say rewards. Whole stuff is accountability. By the way, it was beyond our lecture, but there is a formula for accountability. There is a special formula. You can have accountability if you have T more or less equal A more or less equal R. I don't know whether you guys like formulas. I mean, I sometimes like them. So this is called accountability formula. In order to have accountability in your company, you need to make sure that your T more or less equal to A more or less equal to R. T stands for task. A stands for basically authority and power, and R stands for rewards. If you want somebody to be accountable, first of all, this person should know what is his or her task. You cannot make me accountable if I don't know my task. Second, you need to give me resources. And finally, I need to be adequately rewarded. If any of these components is not in balance, the whole formula does not work. You can have it completely upside down. Sometimes you overpay lots of resources, but task is primitive, so you will not get much. Or, I mean, you can play with that. If one of those components is basically not in balance, is not aligned, the whole formula doesn't work, and you cannot expect accountability from your colleagues or whoever you're trying to make accountable. So the third one, in order to build the culture of mutual trust and respect in a company, we need to have good ingredients, mature people, collaborative process, how they work together, and we need to have a functional structure. So people should know what are they responsible for, they should have adequate level of authority, and they should be adequately rewarded. It sounds easy, but as you grow, because here I give you like just a small piece of system. Those are also subsystems. In a small company, structure of responsibility, is it clear or unclear? Startups, usually quite clear. And more or less, few guys responsible for everything. Then you grow. What happens to responsibilities? It becomes a little bit fuzzy. Who's responsible for what? What about authority? In a small company, like up to 100 people, who has authority over most of the resources? Few top guys. Then you have few thousand employees. Authority is already distributed. Rewards. Easy in the beginning, then sometimes we work with companies. Your reward system depends on when you were hired. Like if you were hired a year ago, your reward system may be completely different from my reward system, although we're doing the same job, right? Because as you grow, again, different systems do not develop as fast as it should be. So, ingredients, recipe, process, hardware, what is the last piece?
Time.
Time?
Does she need time?
You do need time, true. It's not on this chart, but yeah, you definitely need time. What else?
Deliverables.
If aren't deliverables, the whole stuff is, the whole system is about deliverables, true. If I'm cooking an apple pie for fast food chain, and you are cooking an apple pie for exclusive French restaurant, will it make a difference?
Yeah, of course.
If I drop my apple pie for a fast food chain on the floor, I'll just take it down and just go, right? If I do it for French restaurant, I need to scrap it, start from the beginning. So last component is common vision, mission, and values. We need actually to understand what are we trying to build, and the whole team should have joint understanding of what type of company we're trying to build. Do we have the same vision, mission, and values? So those are 4 components that we're working on. And if you would like to present it in an easier way, you can always also say that there's a concept that is called strategic alignment. Each company should, from time to time, look at it. When you're trying to align 4 major elements, strategic elements of your company. Here you have vision and strategy. You have structure here. You have information flow here, and rewards here. Basically, more or less, it's actually here. So if you look at your company, you need to make sure that your vision and strategy is aligned with the way you're organized, aligns the way you communicate and you exchange information, and align with your reward system. The trick is where you start. What is the first component? Where would you start? Let's say you have a company, you want to change a company, or you want to transform the company to be better in addressing change. Which of these 4 you will start with? Most of the management books are written about which of them? If you take all management books, I'm assure you 70% of them are written about people. How to train people, how to hire the best people, how to develop leadership capabilities. 70% of management books about people. We believe, we almost do not touch people. We say, let's keep people here, let's work on the environment. If you change the environment, there is a high chance people will change. You cannot change people by trying to change people. It's useless. You cannot even change, if you have a 10 years old kid, you can hardly change his or her, you can change his or her behavior if you change systems around it. Change the process. If you change something here, you may be able to affect it. But you cannot just change people by trying to affect people. Like, never try to work on corporate culture directly. If you hear a consultant who tells, okay, we will be working on your corporate culture, fires them immediately. You cannot directly work on corporate culture. The only way to improve corporate culture, the only way to improve people here is by changing the environment around them. And if you change the environment, some people, sometimes we come to companies, they have people that we want to fire them. We say, hey, wait, let's work for half a year. Sometimes in 6 to 12 months, those are like stars. Because nobody wanted to work with them because this was completely broken. You can ruin good people, you can hire good people here, put it in a stupid, really bad process when people cannot really communicate with each other, they don't make decisions together. You will ruin, it's like a machine who ruins parts. So we don't work with people here, we're focusing on process here, structure, common vision, mission, and values, trying to address people component here. That was probably like a crunch course on Adizes. So you can see the whole map here. Change comes with problems and opportunities. You need to manage problems and opportunities that come from change. And by the way, when you manage those problems and opportunities, you create change, and these problems and opportunities reappear. My favorite Christmas card that we have sent to our clients said, it was 5 years ago, I guess, we wish you bigger problems next year that you can solve easily, right? Because when will you have absolutely no problems?
When you're done.
You're dead, right? You're dead, no problems whatsoever, because nothing is changing. So most likely next year, I hope all companies you represent, you will have bigger problems. Better, more challenging problems. The size of the people basically can be described by size of the problems we're trying to solve. So problems will be forever. Nothing wrong with problems. It's fine. If you have lots of problems, you're alive. right? If you don't have problems, you're probably dying. So you need management, you need to decide and implement. You need to be more Scandinavian. You need to think smart, especially when you're working, I think of companies like you represent, like when you do have smart people. I mean, right now there is no choice. You have smart people, then we're talking about millennials. You cannot manage millennials like you were managing like 30, 40 years ago, because well, those guys do not want to be told what to do. Those guys want to participate in decision making and probably, have a big say in decision making. So I don't think that you have a choice. By the way, the best HR technologies are always coming from Scandinavia. If they're talking about HR technologies, go to Scandinavia. They have the best technologies. Maybe because it's almost impossible to fire anybody in Scandinavia. So they know how to get the max out of people. They know how to train them, restart careers, whatever. Involve them. So if you're looking about this human piece, Scandinavia, Sweden, I would say, predominantly Sweden, less other countries, they have the best technologies how to get the most out of people. But when you work with people, different styles and different interests, you naturally have conflict. You need to manage conflict to make it constructive. And those are 4 ingredients that you should work on to build a culture of mutual trust and respect, which is essential for long-term ability to manage change and to beat your competition. That was a short overview. I'll be happy to answer any questions about this part or life cycle, whatever you guys feel is more relevant to your businesses. Any questions so far? By the way, how are we doing in terms of time? I guess we're all right?
Yeah.
Right? Any questions?
So regarding this life cycle, like
Yeah.
how to decide if which part of the company is in?
How to decide where you are in the life cycle?
Yeah.
I mean, there are different ways. I mean, the best way, because you have your perception of company problems, I have my perception. And neither your perception nor my perception is right or wrong. So the best way is to get your management team, have discussion, identify your problems, and based on problems, decide on where you are. The easiest way, if you want to have you go to our website, you spend 10 minutes, probably 20 questions, 25 questions, and you would have an answer where you are in a life cycle based on your answers, which not necessarily right, but at least it will be your perception, right? So, here our companies are growing, they're stabilized, and they're aging and dying. And the first step in any change initiative is, we call it alcoholic anonymous session. Basically, before if you want to change your company, first step, what do alcoholic anonymous session, what do they start their sessions with? Say, my name is Pavel, I am an alcoholic. So you should say, my name is Abfoli whatever, and we are, let's say, go-go company, or we are. If you do not know where you are, it's more difficult to go. If you know that you're a go-go, you read the book, you know all problems that will be next, that will be, problems in adolescence. And it's much easier to solve problems when you know what problems are coming. So my recommendation, adizes.com/lifecycle, I guess. But you can find it on our website or read the book. I'm assure you'll have lots of fun. You'll read a lot about your boss, about yourself, about your colleagues. There are lots of stuff.
When was the book published, and have you noticed any new patterns since then that weren't part of the book?
This was published, 99.
99.
Okay, will I be able to give an answer without? There are some patterns, especially in IT world, that if you develop a certain role here, you may go much easier here. Because basically the whole life cycle says that you need to go from one stage to another. You cannot go around stages, right? And there are potential crises. 3 major one is this one, because most of businesses die even before they start working. There's the second one. Majority of businesses never make it to adolescence, and this is, you cannot go here. In IT, at least from our experience working with some companies right now, okay, I'll have to do it. So there are 4 roles. Remember I was mentioning PAEI, produce results, administer, entrepreneur, and integrate. Those 4 roles of management have a particular sequence as you go from stage to stage. Let me just write it down here so you have it in front of you. PAEI. Produce result today, administer, entrepreneur, being proactive, and integrate. Courtship, when business is just born, what is the dominant role?
Entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Business is built here, right? You need idea. Infancy.
Produce results.
Infancy, no more ideas. We just need to produce results. We need some clients. We need some cash. We need to survive. So basically, P becomes a dominant role. Go-go. If you make it to go-go, make it to go-go meaning, okay, we made it. You basically, your products are, you have good products, you have customers. Sometimes companies in go-go start diversify like crazy. I mean, crazy go-go is a very diversified company. I mean, sometimes go-go company probably is not crazy go-go. So what is a code of a company in go-go? What roles?
Probably integrator.
Probably integrator. I would say in go-go it's P and E. You produce results, you're still hungry, but you also, you go to different direction, you're still an entrepreneur. A and I are still relatively low. A, remember, A is admin system, how internal processes are working and so on. I, integration, how we're working as a team. Adolescence. Key role is A. Systems. Let's try to fix our managerial account and let's try to fix our processes. Let's try to fix all systems, right? So adolescence, and adolescence is actually PAEI. Usually during adolescence, entrepreneurship goes down, and then prime is PAEI. When all 4 roles are in balance on a really high level. Prime condition of company, clients love us because we produce products that they love, they love us. We have high A, so we're well organized, we're profitable, everything is working like a clock. We generate new ideas, new products, we go to new markets, and we work well as a team. Then you age. What role do you lose when you age?
Entrepreneurship.
You lose E, right? You say, hey, innovators can be recognized by errors in their backs. So you don't want to innovate, right? Why don't you innovate? Don't make waves. So the fall actually financially, company in fall looks much better than in prime. So when you reduce your E, you don't invest, your risk level goes down, so financially you look really fine. But you're starting to age. Then in aristocracy, you lose some other roles and some others. So going back to your question, this is a typical, most of the companies go this way. What we found out in the last 10 years, there are some companies, and I don't know, maybe we didn't do extensive research, but most of them are from IT world. They found a way how they go, first of all, faster, second, without those big, turbulence. And what they do, they start their business not from E, but they try to start their business from E. They have I. The worst, don't take me wrong, but the most potentially disruptive role out of those 4 is A. Because too much A kills business, right? Especially never hire cheap A person. Never hire cheap administrator. Cheap administrators kill business. Instead of hiring 3 cheap administrators, hire 1 expensive one. Because what do cheap administrators do? They hire more people, and suddenly you see, you have 25 accountants, right? And you don't want that. Instead of 25 accountants, you want to have probably 5, but higher level, etc. Of course, depends on the business. So in order to avoid high level of control in A, you can substitute with I, if you have one. So high level of I is never bad. If you have high level of I, if you're working as a team well, you don't need that much control. You will still need some certain level of control. You need your processes working well, but you need less A. Yeah.
I've got a question. So you're saying a high level of I is never bad, and that makes sense intuitively if you're talking about working as a team. It seems like a good thing. But when you described the curve, it seems like everything before prime is described in the absence of strong I.
It's like a medium. It's
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems like most of the stages, with the exception of maybe one at the end, is described as the presence of I. So like, it seems strange to me that teamwork would characterize like, you know, you're sort of like lacking teamwork at the beginning when things are going well and you're working towards your prime, but teamwork somehow is involved in the fall and what follows? Or have I misunderstood I?
No, I is a teamwork. I is, you know, not being indispensable. So, you know, you can substitute me, I can substitute you. So we work as a team. You need to realize that those four roles, P, A, E, I, all of them undermine each other. Have high level of P, you go lower levels of, you know, I guess you can give me some examples. If you're trying to increase P in your company, being short-term focused, usually being sales-oriented or production-oriented. Let's say P stands for provide for client needs. If I want to provide for client needs to make my customer happy, what happens to my A systems, administrative systems? I sometimes violate them.
I was just gonna say you're breaking the
I
rules.
give discounts, or I ship products before getting paid, or whatever. Or I go around our IT system, right? So I basically, client wants it today, I'll do it today, although it's against me. If you are too short-term focused, if you're working on existing products, what happens to your E? Short-term kills long-term. If you, usually, I mean, you know it better than I do, if you have a very successful product, everybody wants this product, you stop developing sometimes other products, you just focus on that one. So high P kills E. High P also kills I. What does high P means? We grow fast. Company I was referring to a few times, I have 10,000 employees right now. They grow like 10% per year, the last couple of years. They grow like 1,000 people per year. They don't know each other. What do you need for I? First condition for I, you need time. You need to spend some time together. If you have 100 people in your company, 100 employees, and you work in the same office, beautiful. There is no reason to have a bad I, unless your CEO is psycho, right? If not, you rarely have I. Try just to have just 2 offices, only 2 offices. Your I already is not the same I. Now move 1 office to New York, 1 office in LA, your I is nowhere. Now add 5 more countries, so as you grow, your I naturally goes down. And you can get the same examples here. Higher E undermines A, etc., etc., etc. So what I'm saying is that it's natural, and most of entrepreneurs are driven by E, and E also stands for not only entrepreneurship, it stands for ego. So ego, you need ego to survive, because if you don't have ego, most likely you will not start a business. But at the same time, ego is definitely not too good for I. So that's why we are saying that majority of the companies, they start not with I. They start with my ego, with your ego. I have a market. If it's just ego, forget about it. You will not. But in ego plus, you have a market potential and have a good idea, not with I. Companies who have higher I from the beginning, let's say strong partners who really work well together, they go through those stages much easier. And I'll take some words back. Sometimes too high I may also be quite bad. What do I mean too high I? We just like each other so much that we sometimes do not care about results and say, I'm not going to fire you anyway because we're friends. So sometimes, extreme levels of I is also a bit too much. But back to your question, yes, we are seeing some companies managing to go through those stages much faster with less, because if you go classic, there are lots of companies who are stuck here for not a year, but 10 years. You can be stuck here for many, many years. It's really difficult. This is the most difficult transition. Because here you are basically, company still dependent on like a founder. Here you have a life beyond. And there are many systems you need to change, many things you need to change. There are companies who are stuck here for many, many years. I mean, where is Apple right now? Some people say, I mean, Apple, I mean, definitely private, right? Oh, okay, they may be somewhere here, right? Some of us may argue, was Apple ever here? Apple, you know, during Steve Jobs, who was making the most important decisions? Steve himself. So I don't know whether Apple ever really made that transition. This transition, company is no longer dependent on a single individual. All systems are institutionalized, entrepreneurship is institutionalized. So we'll see. I guess in the next 5 years we'll see whether they made this transition or not. Some people say that Apple was GoGo, and GoGo can be very profitable, very successful. GoGo is actually a nice place to be. It's a nice company to work. Sometimes founders just get tired because they say, okay, I cannot do it anymore. We just need to change.
I was just going to ask what if you could give an example of Founder's Trap.
There's so many, and it's kind of painful for me as well. We're getting there. We're getting out of that. You want me to describe what Founder's Trap is? You do have you have a founder and major strategic decisions, and by strategic decisions we are talking about marketing, new product development, human resource development. Those on the right side are basically made by founder. Company so dependent, he or she still micromanages, and everybody knows that if founder dies, company probably will not survive. Extreme case of founder trap, imagine founder dies tomorrow. Will the company be successful? Will it have a life? If not, it's a deep founder's trap. Sometimes it's not so deep. Founder's trap are usually characterized by so-called seagull syndrome. My favorite expression of my wife. She feels that sometimes when I come from business trip, I like a seagull. You know what seagull syndrome is? Mm-hmm. If you have a boat, you hate seagulls, right? Because they come, they crab, they go. So I come from business trip, I spend home 3 days. I make myself, that's not good. I don't have time to fix it, so I go to my next business trip. So the same happens with founders, right? Sometimes founders, the company is so dependent on them, but they have some other interest already. They probably play in politics or play in some, travel interest, whatever. So they kind of not in the business, but they're still in. So they come like once in months. They say, hey, you are not doing the right thing. You are not doing the right thing. They disappear. Everybody feels down. It takes you 2 months to get it back, and then he or she reappears again, and so on. So there are different variations. What I'm talking, seagull syndrome is abnormal. I mean, any founder's trap is abnormal. But people were saying that Apple wasn't founder's trap, right? Not last Apple, but previous first Steve Jobs time, and so it's like, and companies in founder's trap cannot make it here. And by the way, you cannot be forever here, right? If you have like, you can be, right now, no. I mean, in most of the industries, rate of change is relatively high. So you cannot just stay in GoGo for 20 years. It's just impossible. So you either make it here or here, up or down, because there is no other choice. So you either make a transition here, or you basically go to founder's trap. I don't know, have you ever worked in a company managed in a founder trap? Yeah. I mean, I guess most of us experience that, and it depends. Sometimes it's kind of, in both of these guys, they realize we have a founder trap. They want to get out of it. not that easy, because what was successful here, what made them successful here is basically killing them there right now, right? And there are certain steps. One of my favorite myth, sometimes the way founders are trying to get out of founder's trap, they just say, hey, we just need to hire a professional manager, professional CEO with MBA or whatever. That's a recipe to disaster. It's like 95% you will have what I call founders come back, because most likely the guy he or she hired was not managing the business the way he or she wanted. So they will have come back, and after 2 or 3 comebacks, it's almost impossible to get out of founder's trap. So getting out of founder's trap is like 2 years project if founder wants it. If founder doesn't want it, forget about it. If founder is committed to get out of founder's trap, you need to spend a couple of years to help the company to get out of there in order to move back here.
Well, the people in founders trap, they surround themselves with sycophants. They surround themselves with people that will say yes and reinforce their vision always and eject anybody that questions their way.
If we're talking about a bit abnormal, right? Founders with huge ego, usually we call people who are working with them clock. They clap hands a lot, right? They're so excited and so on. There is even a joke about people like that, like Italians are famous for many things, like food is beautiful, music, love. Italians are not so known for their military accomplishments. So there is a joke about Italians during World War I, Italian lieutenants sitting in trenches in beautiful uniform, like Dolce Gabbana stuff, whatever. And they are ready to attack, and he says, Avanti, and soldiers are sitting in the trenches saying, Bravo. Nobody gets out of trench. Right? If a company is managed by extreme founders trap, a guy with a big ego, what do? You just clap hands and say, you know what, probably he didn't mean that. This was just an idea. Probably tomorrow he'll forget about it. And the way people work in that company, what is it? The best trick to work in this company, the best trick is don't work in those companies. But if you work in this company, when founder appears, don't look in his eyes. Make yourself busy. Just look down. Because if you look in his eyes, most likely you will end up with an assignment which has nothing to do with your job. And he or she will forget about this assignment in a few months, but you will kill yourself trying to make it. So there are lots. We're working with so many companies. We love them. We even love those anomalies. But my favorite example, guy was so they have a 50-60 story building. His office was on the top floor. They have a big parking lot. So his employees were taking taxi to go home, leaving their cars on a parking lot, because when he was upstairs and he saw that somebody was leaving, like it's 6 p.m., it was like, whoa, let me call you and I have a new idea, why don't you come back, we discuss. So they left cars, and when he was leaving, he was like, oh, everybody's working hard, 100 cars here. So those are extreme examples, and it's once in 100 companies. But sometimes you meet interesting individuals. Really interesting.
Oh, that is crazy.
And of course, people who like to do things. I would not be able to work with such companies because I'm just my life is too short to waste it. But sometimes, and again, this is extreme. Founders are not necessarily this guy is such an extreme case. Not necessarily. It's just, you need to here, being in founder's trap is completely normal. You cannot survive without it. You cannot afford to hire a well-educated or well-qualified people sometimes here. Sometimes you can, but sometimes you cannot. So basically, you need to be a #1 expert if you want to succeed. Here, you become a bottleneck. You become a bottleneck, and you basically become, you get into founder's trap. Aristocracies are also funny companies. They're so expensive. I was working with one company, and I had a colleague who assisted me, and he's crazy about watches. So he knows, what is the most expensive watches. So after the session, he told me, what was the value of watches we had in the room? There were 12 people. I said, I mean, no idea. I mean, I saw some good brands. I mean, I can more or less differentiate between $200 Fortune 2000, but beyond that, it's beyond me. That it was roughly like more than $1 million.
Whoa.
$1 million. And I was
Of watches.
talking to them and telling them, guys, I mean, you need to change, you are going down. And they're sitting like, in average, probably 100K watch. We are going down? It doesn't look this way. I mean, no, we are fine. You know. Try to change this company. Right? They don't exist anymore. 5 years ago, they don't exist anymore. Right?
Wow.
Because you know, they were going down. Everybody knew that, but it feels so, they're so rich and so full of cash that it's just. We say that those companies, these companies do not need consultants, they need consultants. But apparently I was not insulting enough because I was not able to break through and deliver the message. Any other questions? So by the way, my recommendation, so life cycle, you can go online, take a test, just to have a quick understanding where you are in the life cycle as a company. You can also in our website find PAEI, so you can take a quick test and understand who you are. Are you a producer? Are you an entrepreneur or integrator, administrator? The test will not show you that you are a perfect manager. So sorry, perfect manager do not exist. By the way, this is a perfect manager, theoretically. This management style called Danwood. Our test will not tell you that you are Danwood, so no worries. I mean, unless you take it after lunch, but overall no. So what other resources you can find? You can find quite a few videos on our website of Dr. Adizes presenting his concepts. I mean, it's like, you know, I started working with Adizes 2007. Since then, most of my colleagues even apply Adizes to families. I'm trying to take my family intact for now. But some of them are really, you know, old families are deep into Adizes. They have like family meetings according to Adizes rules. I'm still kind of like a virgin from that respect. But it has application to your family life as well. Because you can easily apply a life cycle to your marriage life cycle. Like go and I don't want to go into details. I mean, some stages are depressing, right? Right, and it's probably called what? It would be called move to Florida here, or you can apply it to different places, to different aspects.
All right.
No questions? I guess we also have like informal.
Yeah.
I mean, it was informal. Thanks for being here.
Pavel, that was awesome.
Thanks.
Yeah, you can turn it off. Awesome. So we like feedback. I have feedback forms. If you don't mind filling them out. Then
And
please
I don't
send in
know
this
what is the
feedback.
best way to share a presentation. Probably, can I just send it to
Yeah,
you
just-
and you?
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. Here you go. So cool.